So I'm a little behind on this because I kind of just took a break over the holidays, but we've got a whole brand new Lorcana set in just over a month, Into the Inklands! We've got a shiny new mechanic, that being locations. Part of the reason why I delayed this video a little was to wait and see if we'd get any info on how they actually work, and we since have. Locations are a permanent card type, the first horizontal one. Essentially, locations are always exerted, and since they have willpower, they can be challenged, which looks like it'll be the main way you get rid of them. For instance, we have Forbidden Mountain, Maleficent's Castle, the only location revealed so far, which costs 2 ink and has 6 willpower. It also has 1 lore. Locations provide you lore during the set step at the start of your turn, automatically, no questing required. Well, it's kind of like they're forced to quest, like a reckless for questing, since they're always exerted. Maleficent's Castle doesn't have any other ability, but presumably other locations would have passive or activated abilities you could use. There is also a cost to move a character to that location, which for Maleficent's Castle is only 1 ink. Why would you want to do that? Well, there's no inherent benefit to doing that, but a few of the characters revealed so far have things that happen when they're at or moved to a location. For instance, Peter Pan Lost Boy Leader is a 3/3/1 lore for 4, who once per turn gains lore equal to a location's lore when he moves there. So his stats are rather low for his cost, but free lore is nice. How good he really is will depend on how good locations end up being. Now, Peter doesn't have to wait for his ink to dry. Wet characters can be moved to locations. However, characters don't protect locations or vice versa, and if a location a character is at gets blown up, they're just not at a location anymore. We've seen one other location, Maui's Place of Exile, Hidden Island. A bit of a mouthful for a name, but it has 5 willpower, a move cost of 1, and no lore for 2 ink. And your characters at it get resist +1. So it's interesting to see that not all locations will get lore, and this is a reasonably decent effect to give to your characters. We'll see if this ends up working out in practice, or if people just snipe a location and ignore your characters until they're easier to damage. With that out of the way, let's get into some cards. First we have Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, a 2/2/1 lore for 2 with when you have 2 or more other characters in play, he gets +2 lore. This is kind of insane. If he survives to turn 3 and you can drop 2 other characters, or even if your 1 drop has survived and you play another, then he quests for 3, making him a star attraction with a slightly more survivable body. I think he'll see a lot of play in aggro decks. Here's hoping aggro decks get enough love this set that Ruby Amethyst isn't the only deck people play on Pixelborn or in tournaments. Next is a song, Heal What Has Been Hurt, for 3 ink. Remove up to 3 damage and draw a card. Definitely better than the other healing actions we've seen since it draws a card, but unlikely to see play. Being a song means it's easier to combo with Grandpappy, but he works better with pre-played items anyway. Then we have some 101 Dalmatians rep. Firstly with Pongo, Determined Father, a 3/2/1 lore for 3 with once per turn you may pay 2 ink to reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's a character, put it in hand, otherwise bottom deck it. So effectively, if you want the most out of him, you want to play him for 5, essentially, as if you play him turn 3, he might die before you get to draw off of him. He'll be good in the up-and-coming Mufasa Roulette deck, certainly, and it's good to see Amber getting ever more draw options to help compete with Amethyst. The final new Amber card is Dalmatian Puppy Tailwagger, a 2/3/1 lore for 2, which you can have up to 99 copies of in a deck. Flavorful, but so far we don't really have a payoff for that. Hopefully we see another card that cares about puppies you have in play. You also may have noticed that its collection number is 4A. That's because this card has 5 art variants, I suppose to make your meme Oops All Dalmatians deck not be too monotonous. Moving to Amethyst, we have Mama Odie, Voice of Wisdom, a 3/6/2 lore for 6, uninkable with when she quests, you may move 2 damage from a character to an opposing character. Love the effect, but she's too expensive for her to ever actually do anything. She'll just get hit by Dragonfire before she can quest. Maybe if the meta moves back towards challenging, she might see play. Love finally seeing Mama Odie in the game, though. The Sorcerer's Hat is yet another OP Amethyst item costing 2 ink with exert it and pay 1 ink to name a card, reveal the top card of your deck, and if it's the named card, put it into your hand. So in the right circumstances, this is a much cheaper to activate inkable magic mirror, which is insane, and it has been clarified that you only need the name, not the subtitle. So you can just guess Peter Pan, you don't have to differentiate between Never Landing and Lost Boy Leader. Or for a meme, you could run 4 copies of the hat with a deck that's otherwise only Dalmatian puppies. Pair this with Ursula's Cauldron and you'll have ridiculous cheap draw, which Amethyst already has anyway. Whee! However, moving to Emerald, we get a very nice piece of anti-meta tech, Ursula Deceiver, a 1/3/1 lore for 2. When you play her, target opponent reveals their hand and discards a song of your choice. So this hurts both Steel Song and Ruby Amethyst. Get rid of Grab Your Sword, Be Prepared, or A Whole New World. I think she will be what makes Emerald Discard actually penetrate the meta and start seeing tournament play. Man, it feels weird to cheer on seeing more forced discard in a competitive meta, but I really just want to see Ruby Amethyst get played less. We also get Stitch, Covert Agent, a 3/3 2-lore for 5 with Evasive, and if he's at a location, he also gets Ward. So Evasive and Ward on the same character is going to be very hard to remove. Essentially, you'll only get him with a board clear, or something like Lady Tremaine who gets around Ward. His playability will depend on how good locations are, but if there are good locations, Stitch will be a good addition to such decks. Over to Ruby, we get Jim Hawkins, Space Traveler, a 4/4 2-lore for 5 with when you play him, play a location costing up to 4 for free, and when you play a location, you can move him there for free. So that sounds like a lot of value, but again, how good he is will depend on how good locations are, and so far we've only seen 2. Great to see Treasure Planet rep, though. Missing from last set, we finally get another Moana, Born Leader, a 4/4 2-lore for 5 on our first Floodborn of the set with Shift 3, and when she quests at a location, ready all other characters there, they can't quest that turn. So that could be a powerful effect, but we'll see if there's a cheaper Moana added this set, as both the other ones we've seen cost 5, so won't be great shift targets. There's another Stitch, Little Rocket, a 3/1 1-lore for 2 uninkable with Rush. Basically, he's just a removal spell, as barring a Grandfather Clock in play or some other resist shenanigans, like our new Maui Place of Exile, he's not going to survive his initial swing, though I suppose he'll be very good at getting rid of enemy locations which can't hit back. Then we get another new song, I've Got a Dream. For 2 ink, ready one of your characters at a location, they can't quest, but you gain lore equal to the location's lore. If we get some high lore locations, this could be an easy way to cheaply net lots of lore. Like, the readying effect is secondary to how much lore you could make with this. Man, I really want to see more locations. Moving to Sapphire, we have Scrooge McDuck, richest duck in the world, a 3/5 1-lore for 5 uninkable, who gets evasive during your turn, and when he challenges and banishes another character during your turn, you get to play an item for free. So the effect there is really cool, but we haven't really seen any too expensive items yet, and it does require him to both survive a turn and have a valid target to challenge into, which your opponent may not give you. Maybe best to put him in a Sapphire Steel deck so you can run Pick a Fight, or Amethyst Sapphire so you can give him Rush with Pocket Watch. Next is Tinkerbell, Very Clever Fairy, a 3/4 2-lore for 5 with when one of your items is banished, you may put it in your inkwell face down and exerted. So this is gonna be nuts with Flaversham and Popsicles, or at least it would be nuts if she didn't cost 5. If she cost 3 with appropriate strength and willpower, she would be much better, as usually you want to ramp in the early game. As is, she becomes more of a consolation prize. Then we have Wendy Darling, Authority on Peter Pan, a 3/1 2-lore for 3 with support and ward. I'm not sure how to view this. Support can be pretty solid, as people have run Philoctetes in decks before, as can Ward, but she's very vulnerable to challenges and Grab Your Sword. Maybe if you can get her behind a bodyguard? The final Sapphire card we've seen so far is Distract, a 2-ink action that gives a character -2 strength and draws a card. So the effect is pretty meh. No one runs Control Your Temper, and I don't think adding card draw on top of it will save it, but the art depicts what I believe is Gustav the Giant, who is the antagonist in the Brave Little Tailor short. With also getting Scrooge McDuck, mostly known from DuckTales, it looks like Lorcana is branching out into TV shows and shorts, which should be interesting. In Steel, we get Minnie Mouse, Funky Spelunker, a 0/3 1-lore for 1 who gets +2 strength if she's at a location. This seems pretty meh, as moving to a location costs ink, so you'd likely be passing up your 2-drop by spending turn 2 moving her. Maybe just play any other 1-drop instead. Finally, we get Eeyore, Thick Chonker, Overstuffed Donkey. He's a 4/5 1-lore for 5 with Resist, so that's not too bad. He'll be very good at taking out targets and sticking around, particularly in draft, and it's good to finally see our favorite depressed donkey. Okay, that's all we've seen so far. Show me more locations, Ravensburger. Comment below which Into the Inklands card you're most excited to try out.